Jimmy Himes. Jimmy, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
We feel a little tighter here. It's a little different, but we do have more of a breeze going. Will Overstreet, VFL, thanks for joining us. And right down there, Bob Hodge. We still have on today's show coming at you Sterling Hinton, Chuck Cavaleris. Of course, we got to do the Cavaleris line. Josh Ward, Daniel Hood, Marlon Wallace. We got a full show coming your way. Tennessee wins 71-0 last night. We all kind of
close.
Yeah, and it wasn't that close. We all kind of chuckled last week when Chuck threw out 64.5. Last laugh goes to Chuck. It was the most points by Tennessee since 1929. They led 65-0 at half. They scored 37 in the first quarter. All of those were UT records. And they still haven't allowed a touchdown to an opponent in 4 straight games on defense. We always do top takeaways. And Jimmy, I'll start with you, but I'll give mine first. My top takeaway is they should have just gone ahead and scheduled St. Francis, the team that beat Kent State. That might have been a better matchup.
Kent State's the worst football team I've seen at Neyland Stadium. They're pathetic.
Including
So
FCS teams.
Anybody. Yeah, they were terrible. And they lost to an FCS team, as
Right.
you mentioned, with St. Francis. The other thing is that at least Tennessee took care of business. You know, you look around, heck, Michigan struggled with Arkansas State. The week before, Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. Georgia didn't play well and barely beating Kentucky. So there have been other teams, and I understand the competition was better in those games, but other teams have taken their eye off the bullseye a little bit. At least Tennessee didn't do that. And I think one reason that they don't do that is they're having a lot of fun playing football. That offense, they go out there thinking, let's score 50. The defense trying to pitch a shutout again. So I think that the fun that they're having almost intercepts the chance of them having a letdown in a game like this.
I don't want to take too many shots at Michigan, though. That team from Arkansas State, I understand they play with 5-star heart.
Oh, yes, they do.
That's for sure.
Will and Bob, top takeaways.
You could have scored 120 if you wanted to. You basically played on air. I mean, the best thing that you took away from this game, you did get some young guys in, and you got them reps. I don't know how good those reps were. I mean, even in that kind of game, I mean, those guys have much better reps in practice.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It just overall, it was a game to get out injury-free. But there's not as much you can take away from that bad a competition because they were that bad. It was on. I mean, literally, it was on air at times.
There was a hole on every run. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't cover. They couldn't snap the ball.
They couldn't snap the ball. Three big bad snaps. I mean, it was as bad a team as you've ever seen.
Bob Hodge, takeaways.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is so far Tennessee against the lesser competition. Let's leave North Carolina State. They're playing clean, and you watch the game, and there are some things Tennessee can clean up, but you're not going out against these guys. You're keeping focused. Your offensive line isn't just grabbing people. I guess they don't have to, but you're not seeing illegal procedure penalties. You're not seeing your defense jump offside. You're not seeing that sort of thing, and so that goes to what Jimmy and you were talking about, that they are staying more focused. Because those are kind of sloppy penalties that happen when you're not really into things. And so I think the fact that Tennessee, no, that is a terrible team they played, but you went out there and played a pretty good, clean football game with a couple of exceptions.
Which I think does get back to just the overall culture aspect of what Josh Heupel is building. Now we're going to find out more. We're going to do a lot of talking about Oklahoma today. We're going to find out a lot more about this team next week. It's probably going to be the first time they get punched in the mouth a little bit. We'll see how they respond. But the culture of that program, the fact that they do take it just one day at a time, they constantly repeat something that Ollie Lane says to me all the time on our Saturday kickoff show, that Heupel has drilled into that team, and now the players are saying it last night in the postgame, and that is, it's really Tennessee versus Tennessee. We're not worried about the guy across the field. We've got to beat what we did last week, and then next week we'll beat that and keep improving. And it does say something for the fact that he continues to get these guys to focus, because we've seen Tennessee teams that haven't in the past.
Yeah, they really didn't have to worry too much about Kent State, did they? But I think that's a good point. I think it speaks to the culture. I think it speaks to the mindset that Josh Heupel has instilled in this team. And you did hear it repeatedly from the players that were made available to the media after the game. And I think that's hard to do. And I know you hear coaches all the time talk about, well, you're only given 12 opportunities that you know of. And so you should be able to get ready every week. But we see every week teams are not always ready to play. And so for Tennessee to be there, the other thing is I think the way Tennessee runs their offense, I think it's really harder for somebody to upset them.
Yes.
They come at this warp speed. They wear you out on offense, and their defensive line is so deep. The defensive line wears out the opposing offensive line.
They've got a much higher floor than they've had, and I don't know. You always say for like the military academies, they run the triple option because it's a bit of an equalizer. That system's kind of the same thing. It's not an equalizer. It's more the opposite. It raises the floor a little bit. If you're not just hammered with injuries, it's hard to ever picture this team dropping less than 7 wins in a season, which, those kinds of things happen in football. Good programs will occasionally have one of those seasons that comes out of nowhere. With this offense, it's hard to imagine Tennessee having one of those 4-win years where everything went wrong. It would almost have to be, they were just decimated by injuries.
Well, and to an extent, if you look at their offense, it sounds pretty simple. If you load the box, they're going to throw it on you. If you spread the field, they're going to run it on you.
Yeah.
They seem to have an answer for whatever you want to do, unless you have great personnel like a Georgia.
Yeah. You have to have a great front four, right, to really stop this offense. You've got to be great in that front seven where you can have 6 guys and they can take away the run. That's the only way you're really going to be able to stop this offense from scoring any points.
You go back to last year in the Austin Peay game, which the Austin Peay worlds better than Kent State, obviously. But if you go back to that game last year, you had a lot of missed tackles in that game. You had missed defensive assignments. And once again, even accounting for the poor competition, you didn't see missed tackles yesterday. In the first half, I remember one that guy should have been brought down, and he ended up gaining, I think, 4 yards. Might have been their biggest play of the game, actually, for Kent State. Was a 4-yard gain. But all of that keeps coming back to me is how focused this group is, because how many times, even when Tennessee was good, say back in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and a team like this came in, and it was sloppy for a half. It was sloppy. Now you ended up winning 44-14, but you didn't. This yesterday, you said they could have scored 120. It would have been interesting to see what they could have scored had that been what we want to do.
Yeah.
Well, the Kent State coach must have been wondering if they were going to try it when they're onside kicking there in the first half of 50. All right. When we come back, the best player on the field yesterday, that'll be a competition because there were a lot of good ones. The worst decision, I think I know where that one's going, and the biggest disappointment. Yep, we got to answer it. Come on back. We've got much more to come, including a huge deep dive into Tennessee, Oklahoma. Come on back on the Sports Source Live from Smoky Stadium.